This is a presentation about vo2max comprised by Andrew Craig Jones, Daniel Denton, and Dyron Cordero. So first, what is vo2max? vo2max is a measurement of maximum oxygen that an individual can use during intense or maximal exercise. It's usually measured via a measurement of gas exchange during a graded exercise test until exhaustion. For a long time, it's been considered to be the most important measurement of cardiorespiratory fitness. Because of this, it's also presumed to be a direct measurement of performance outcomes. However, recently, it's been called into question as to whether it really is as reliable as previously thought. During our literature review, we came up with three main points of why vo2max matters. First, even though there may be more tests that predict running performance a little bit better, vo2max is still correlated to running performance. vo2max may also be inversely related to risk of injury and disease. And lastly, a lot of the literature makes recommendations basing intensity on a percentage of vo2max. So without the measurement of vo2max, the papers may be rendered useless. So looking strictly at performance, we see that vo2max may be a good predictor of performance in general terms. However, when the variability is low, it may not be so accurate. And in those cases, there may be better tests to suit for predicting performance outcomes. In some of Noakes' older work, he shows that vo2max has a moderate to strong relationship with race performance. This means that in general, someone with a lower vo2max may be a little slower than somebody with a much higher vo2max in a race. However, when you look at elite groups with low variability, you'll see that other race performances are a good predictor of longer or shorter races. This is seen here with a much higher relationship. If previous race times aren't available, you can also use the velocity achieved during a vo2max test to predict performance as shown here. As seen in the data here, we also see the ranges in vo2max clearly reflect a trend of increased measures the more you train endurance. So an untrained group will have a lower vo2max compared to a power and thusly to the endurance group. As far as injury goes, there has been a positive correlation between vo2max and bone mineral density. In a paper by Pocock and Company, we can see a positive relationship between vo2max measures and bone mineral density in the femoral neck and low back. These two sites are particularly important because they are at an increased risk of osteoporosis as we age. In an article by Macaluso et al., we can also see that the higher vo2max has a positive relationship with increased satellite cells. This is important because satellite cells are responsible for repairing muscle damage. Another group from the Netherlands, led by Ferreira, showed that high vo2max also correlates with less arterial stiffness, thus reducing the risk of cardiovascular disease. It should be well understood, however, that confounding variables, including lifestyle, were not accounted for in these studies, and thus this correlation does not necessarily imply any kind of causation. We have also seen that various training modes affect vo2max measures, from classic endurance training to high-intensity interval training. What may be more important about knowing your vo2max is being able to understand and interpret the literature. We constantly see training recommendations that explain you should do 30 minutes of training at this percentage of vo2max and then 30 minutes of training at that percentage of vo2max. Without actually knowing your vo2max, this could potentially render this literature useless to the reader. And although we can predict our vo2max through heart rate and rating of perceived exertion, it will never be as accurate or reliable as a true vo2max test. So the biggest things to take home from this video is 1. The vo2max can still generally predict race performance. 2. That a higher vo2max may be associated with a lower risk of injury and disease. And 3, you need your vo2max to be able to interpret a lot of the literature in training and strength and conditioning. This has been a video about vo2max, and I appreciate you guys watching and listening. Thank you.